Good evening, guys. So, I hope I'm audible, and I think there is no network glitch from my side, right? So, first of all, welcoming you all to the day three of the Java workshop, and let me wait for a couple of minutes until everyone joins, and you can drop the messages in the comments so that I'll come to know who and all are in the live right now. So, I'll wait for a couple of minutes and then I'll begin the session. So, guys, if you people have any doubts regarding the topics which you have seen until now, you can let me know in the chat. Okay, so to summarize what we have seen yesterday, we have seen the basic operators which is available in Java, where we concentrated more on the bitwise in the shift operator and the ternary operator, right? So today we'll begin our session with the conditional statements and the control statements in Java. Okay, and then we'll also see what is an array, and we'll see a few examples where it will be focused on the DSA algorithms. We'll be discussing it as well. So, so I couldn't find anyone like in the comment section. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. So now we'll start with the conditional statements. So as the name suggests, what is a conditional statement? Conditional statements are nothing but for people who have like prior knowledge on other programming languages, like either it can be Python, C, or C++. I hope you people know these concepts. So the concept is same over all the like programming languages, but there is a difference in the syntax only. So if it is a conditional statement, it is going to operate on based on some conditions. Okay, so here we have four different types of structures which is actually followed. One is the if else block. Okay, the if else block, the general syntax will be, so if you'll be giving some condition. If this condition is true, the block inside the if block will be executing. Okay, if this condition fails, then the block which is present in the else block, the statements which is present in the else block will be getting executed. This is a simple if else ladder. Okay, I mean, like we also have if else. For example, if you're having multiple conditions, yesterday we have discussed a problem statement where we are going to find the highest of three numbers, right? So in those cases and all, we'll be having multiple conditions. So for those kind of conditions, it is, so you'll be giving the condition, the first condition in if block. If that condition is true, then the statements inside the if block will be getting executed. So if you want to, like have the check with another condition, you'll be enclosing it in else if block. Else if you'll be giving the condition, and then if this condition holds true, then the statements which is present inside the else if block will be getting executed. Okay, so you can either have any like else if, how many ever else if according to your scenario, you can have it in your program. Okay, so if you're having multiple else if also, it's not an issue. It actually depends on like uh, the requirement of your problem, or the requirement of your program. Okay, next thing, if all this condition fails, then the code which you are enclosing it in the final else block will be getting executed. Okay, and one second. Yes. So next is we know if else later, or if else later. Okay, this is nothing but if else if later and all. Okay, and also we can also have nested if else blocks and all. For example, inside one if you can have the if else block. Okay, so if else block can be enclosed any number of times. Like inside this, if you can have another if else block. Okay, so according to the scenario, okay, according to the logic, how we are going to frame to solve a particular problem, the structure of like the number of if else, number of conditions, like with either you're going to enclose it in a single if else, or it depends according to your the requirement. So the next thing which we have is the switch case over here. Switch case is nothing but, so yes. First, I'll be giving you a general opinion on what is condition statements. So switch case is nothing but you're going to have multiple conditions, I said, right? So we'll be having multiple cases. Okay, so based on the condition, based on the input on which you're going to apply some conditions, we'll be passing it inside the switch block, and it'll be having multiple cases. So if the input is matched with the input which we are giving in the particular case, then the corresponding block will be getting executed. Don't worry, we'll be seeing examples out of it. Okay, so if none of the cases are getting matched with each other, if none of the cases is getting mapped, then the logic which is present in your default block will be getting executed. Okay, so this is a general opinion of what is a conditional statement and all. And next, if you're going with the Java if statement, we also have a simple if statement in Java, which means we don't have any else block, we just have a if block. Okay, if the condition is true, then we'll be running out with a logic. Okay, so only a single if statement can also be enclosed. So this is the flow diagram of a if statement. So here you'll be having a condition. If that condition is true, then the corresponding logic will be getting executed. The corresponding block will be getting executed. If this condition is false, then another set of statements will be getting executed. But this is actually the flow diagram of if simple if statement. So if this condition, if so, only if this condition is true, the code will be getting executed. The conditional code, the block will be getting executed. Otherwise, it will be coming to the end of the program. So it is used to test a condition which is based on that it results a boolean value. Okay. So one more thing you want to remember is every time if you're giving any condition means the condition must yield true. Only if the condition is true, then the statements inside that block will be getting executed. Okay. So various form of if statements are available. I have given you like the examples like if else. Okay. So all these things. Okay. And let's see a simple example for the if statement. So let me give you an example where we want to get the input from the user. Okay. Enter an input number. Okay. And we'll create an object for the scanner class, because if I want to get the input from the user, I want to make use of the scanner class. Okay. And according to the data type of variables whichever I'm going to take as the user input, I'll be having certain methods. For example, if I'm going to take an integer from the user during the runtime, I'll be going with a method called nextInt. If I'm going to use take the float variable as input, then I'll be going on with the next float, next double, and all those things. Okay. So system dot in. Yes. So I'll be first of all, I'll be taking the age as the input from the user, and I'll go with the example of a normal basic example, whether a person is eligible to vote or not. Okay. Sc dot nextInt. So first I'll be giving you an example of simple if age mod 2 is equal to 0. Sorry. Oh, this is, if age is greater than or equal to 18, then I have to print eligible to vote. Okay. So I'm enclosing only a simple if where I'm having a condition check over here. If my age is greater than or equal to 18, then I'll print eligible to vote. Okay. For example. Oh, okay. In order to use the scanner class, I want to import the util library. Import java.util.star. Either I can go with star or I can also go with scanner. So I'm giving 34. Yeah, it's printing eligible to vote. Okay, because it gets checked over here. 34 is greater than or equal to 18. Yep, that's true. So the statement inside this is getting worked. Okay. For example, I'm going to give the age which is less than 18, which I'm going to give 10. I'm not receiving any output because I haven't written the logic for uh like the else block. I haven't told the machine what you must do if the condition fails, right? So to catch these statements only, we'll be giving else. Okay. So in the else block, we'll be giving system dot out dot println not eligible to vote. Okay. So now when I try to give the same 10 as the input, I'll be receiving not eligible to it, because I have also returned the logic for what the program must do if my condition fails. Okay. So this is if else later. So there could be chances, right? So whenever you are going to develop an application, you have to see to that you are covering all the edge cases. Okay, sometimes whenever you are going to develop an application, there are chances the user may give invalid input, because it happens, right? So what if the user is giving some negative number as integer, as age? Okay, so if the user gives a negative number in the age column, I want to prompt that it is an invalid number, right? So I'll be enclosing in another condition over here. I'll be checking else if, okay, age is less than 0. Okay, because we know age cannot be negative, right? So I'm going to have a check over here. If age is less than 0, system.out.println invalid age, invalid input, age must never be negative. Okay, so one more catch over here. So it works very fine. Okay, so whenever I'm giving like this, I'm giving something like -3, it's giving invalid input, age must never be negative. So if I'm giving something around 2, it is giving not eligible to vote. And if I'm giving something 19, it is giving eligible to vote. But you know, every time whenever you are writing the hierarchy of the conditions to which you are going to check, you must concentrate even on the hierarchy, means the conditions which are going to enclose. For example, it's better to use it's better to give this condition as the first condition. Why? Before checking the age is greater than or equal to 18, right? Before checking whether the person is eligible to vote or not, it is better to check whether it's a valid or invalid input, right? So whenever I'm giving -3, or whenever I'm giving an invalid input, first it is checked with this condition, and then only it comes over here, right? So I must avoid it. Okay, so my initial process must be, whenever I'm getting an input, I have to check whether it is a valid or invalid, and then only I have to apply the certain conditions on that input. So it would be better if I'm giving this condition first. Okay, because whenever I'm giving an invalid input, unnecessarily this condition is checked, as I have given it in first. Okay, so in some problems, whenever you are using lead code and all, this small mistake will help, will lead to errors. So when your program is having multiple test cases and all, you'll be correctly writing the logic, but this without the in order way of specifying things, this also sometimes leads to errors whenever there is edge cases and all. Okay, so yep, next we'll be having switch statement. Switch case is nothing but it is similar to the normal if else if later only. Okay, so there will be multiple conditions, so here we'll be calling it as cases. So you will be based on an input only, you will be having certain logics, right? So first of all, the input which the user gives must be correctly mapped with the switch cases. For example, it will be something like this. You'll be having an expression, okay, and multiple cases, which is followed by a default block. Okay, so it will be mapped with the first case. So if it is getting matched, then this set of statements will be getting executed, and then when you're applying break, your control comes out of the switch block. Okay, so next thing, if this is getting unmatched, if my expression is not mapped with the case 1, it comes to the following case, which is case 2. Okay, and if this case 2 is getting mapped or matched, anything carries the same meaning, right? So the execution of this block will be getting executed, and then if you are giving break statement, then entirely the control comes out of it. Okay, then there can be n cases according to your requirements. Okay, and here the switch block, it executes one statement from multiple conditions, and it is quite similar to the if else if later. Okay, so I'll be giving you an example for switch block, before which like, do you people understood the conditional statements, guys? If you people are, like, there in the live, you can respond to me in the chat. If you guys have any doubt in the conditional statements, you can let me know, so that I'll clear the doubts if you have any. Hi, Sumit, do you have any doubt in the condition statements, or else can we go ahead with the switch block? Today or not? Oh, okay, I'll watch recording of. Okay, okay, Sumit. Okay, no issues. But one day you are watching, right? I mean, like, in the live only you are there now, or others are also available there? Sumit, can you answer this, and can you leave? Like, only you are watching the live right now, or okay, okay, okay. That's fine. Okay, only you are watching the live right now. 2 members more. Okay, okay. I don't know who that 2 members are, but guys, if you can respond to the chat, it will be helpful for me to be on the track. Okay, so next we'll be moving on with the example for switch case. Okay, for example, let's consider a scenario where, like, my input is going to be something between 0 to 6. Okay, and I mean, based on my input, I want to tell the user the day of the week. For example, if I'm going to give 0 as my input, then the corresponding output must be it's a Sunday. Okay, if it is 1, then the output must be it's a Monday. I mean, if it's 2, then it is going to be Tuesday, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to like, get input from the user, enter input number, so that I will provide you with the day of the week. Okay, and yes, I'm going to create a switch block, and see, based on this condition only, I will get a input is equal to sc dot next int, right? Okay, so according to this input only, I'm going to frame my entire logic, right? So what I want to do is, means I'm getting an input from the user, and based on that input only, I'm going to have my cases, right? So I'm going to pass this input variable into my switch block input. Okay, and let me have my first case. So what I said if it's a 0, then I want to print it's a Sunday. It's Sunday. Okay, and I want to give a break statement over here. So if my case is 1, then I want to print it's Monday. If my case is 2, It's Tuesday. Thursday. Friday. Then if it's 6, then I'll be giving the Saturday. Okay. Yes. And my default block will be invalid input, because if my user gives anywhere between uh, I mean 0 to 6, if they are giving 7 means it is an invalid input, right? So I'll let me print this as invalid input. Okay. Yes. So when I try to run this, if I'm giving 4, then it's correctly prompting that it's Thursday. Okay. And if I'm giving 3, it's giving me it's Wednesday. And if I'm giving 8, it's giving me it's an invalid input. Okay. So what happens? So for example, wait. So I'm specifying 2, then what happens is I'm passing the input to the switch block. So this 2 is passed to my switch case, okay, and it must be checked with each and every case which I have defined over here. So and one more thing, the data type which you are specifying in the case must be mapped with the data type which you are passing at as. Okay, for example, here I am going to pass an integer variable into my switch block, right? So I cannot have something like this. Okay, I cannot have something like this. I cannot pass an integer variable to my switch block, and I cannot have a string comparisons in my cases. Okay, I'm supposed to have only the same data type, so that's why I'm having int here also. Okay, so it gets checked over here whether 0 is equal to 2. No, so the control comes over here. Next, it checks whether my 2 is equal to 1. No. So the cursor comes over here. So next what happens is it checks whether 2 is equal to 2. Yep, that's true, obviously, right? So then what happens? Control goes inside that particular corresponding case. Then it's getting it's Tuesday, it's getting printed, and it's encountering a break. So after encountering the break statement, automatically the control comes entirely out of the switch block. Okay, you may raise a question over here, the reason for having the break statement. For example, let me comment out this two break statements. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to give the same input. So I'm going to give 2 as my input. Okay, so now what happens? So when I'm giving 2 as the input, it is checking over every cases, like it is checking whether my 0 is equal to 2. No. Then it's checking whether my 1 is equal to 2. No. Then it's checking whether my 2 is equal to 2. Yep, that's true. What happens? So next, hey, it's Tuesday, it's getting printed as usual. It's normal, right? Next, I have commented out this break statement, right? So now the break is not being encountered by the controller. Okay, next thing, once again. Okay, so yep. So here I'm having case 3, but as my input got matched with case 2, already it got checked and matched, right? So again, the input is not going to be matched with any of the cases. For example, what I'm trying to here itself, my input I have given as 2, right? 2 is equal to 2, it got matched. So again, for any cases, it will not be having a check O on it. Okay. So it is getting printed. Tuesday is getting printed, and here there is no break statement as I have commented it out. Then it comes to here case 3. It is not going to be checked because already a check has been done and it is successful. So next it comes into this block. It's Wednesday will be getting printed, and again I have commented out this break statement. So again it comes to the case where the case is 4. Okay, the check is not done because already we have checked it out. And now here the block inside this, it's Tuesday, it's getting printed, and here only it's encountering a break statement. So now only the control comes out of my entire switch block. So this actually, does not provide accurate result, right? So like this is a wrong result. So if I'm giving 2 as my value, only I want to be prompted with the answer, hey, it's a Tuesday. So in order to prevent this kind of errors and inconsistencies only, we are going with applying the break statement after every case is present in the switch block. So it's important, it's important to provide break statement after every cases, and this is the reason for it. Okay, so yep, this is the meaning. I mean, this is all about the switch cases. According to your requirements, you can either go with using a switch case, or you can go with using a FLZIF or later. But the in most of the cases, whenever we are dealing with the competitive programming stuffs, we will not be using switch cases and all. We'll be going with the fills block only, because there, the law will not be applying multiple conditions, and then it will not be a kind of those things. Okay, so guys, if you people have any doubts until this, you can let me know in the chat. We'll clear that out, and then we'll be moving on. With the control structures, we do have for loop, while loop, and do while loop in Java. So if you people have any doubts regarding this, regarding the things, conditional statements, and switch case, you can let me know in the chat. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. Okay. So next we'll deal with like before going on with the control structures. I just want to let you people know. Yesterday we have seen regarding the unary operators, right? Which means it is pre-increment and post-increment. So pre-decrement and post-decrement. Be very clear on these concepts, because during the interview there will be a section, or like whenever you are being asked regarding the MCQs round, whatever, like first round and all, they'll be giving you a snippet. It is actually called as programming round. Okay, so they'll be giving you a snippet where you are supposed to find the correct output for that particular snippet. So in the snippet questions and all, for sure you will be getting at least one question from, I mean, like minimum, bare minimum, at least one question you'll be receiving from the unary operators concept. Okay, for example, yes, so like for example they'll be like giving questions like this. Yes, they'll be giving questions like this and they'll be asking you the output, because there will be confusion. Like these are the key areas where people do make mistakes, so they'll be stressing much on these concepts. Okay, so there are many big expressions which like inputs the ternary operators concept. So be very clear on those things. For example, see here and all, it is a composition of ternary and unary operators. So if you're guys preparing for interview, like give more attention for all these things. And we are having many websites for that as well. Yes, here and all, see, it's quite a big expression, right? It's a big expression for a ternary operator, I mean, like for a unary operator, and it works accordingly. So practice more on these areas, okay? Because a slight confusion, like if 10 lines is given, if you're getting or making a mistake in the third line or fifth line, their entire output will change. Okay, so give some concentration on this. And like I said, we'll also be dealing with some DSA algorithms whenever we are like learning Java, right? So people, those who are preparing DSA, like those who are preparing for interviews, the skills which they are going to test you is the DSA skills right there, right? So, so if you guys are preparing for interview, like focus more on DSA. And this is not kind of marketing and all, but when I was preparing for interview, like I used to follow a DSA sheets. There are many sheets available in the market, available in the internet. You can refer anything, whichever is comfortable to you. You can go refer towards it, anything. But personally I feel like this sheet has helped me a lot, like to equip myself with good problem solving skills. So I generally use Striver's DSA sheet. Okay, so here we'll be having like many things like, yes. So I for A to Z sheet. So according to the knowledge which you have in DSC, you can either go with the A to Z sheet or the SD sheet, whatever things. We also have many things like Grokkings and many things like Love Barber sheets and all we used to have. So like go through the DSA sheets, whichever feels comfortable to you, you can go. So here actually like he would have given the like the problems along with the articles for solving those things. And the YouTube links, if you're not getting any particular logic, and go to the YouTube links as well. So whenever you're trying to solve a particular problem, like you will be following initially the brute force approach. Brute force approach in the sense where like you'll be dealing with all the combinations and permutations. You'll be applying all the combinations and permutations, and then you will be coming out with the solution. Okay, so one more thing, whenever you are solving a particular problem, please keep the note, please keep an eye on the constraints which is given over there. So whenever you are taking a problem, like let it be a lead code question or let it be even a question which is placed to you during interviews, they'll be giving the initial constraints, like for you people, means the output range, how the output is going to be framed to solve this particular question, or some key hints and all. Make use of all these things. And also like keep in mind regarding the time and space complexity which are consuming to solve that particular problem. Okay, so I hope you people know what is meant by time and space complexity. So time and space complexities are nothing but um, like the runtime which your program actually takes in order to solve that particular program is termed as the time complexity, and excluding the input and the output memory space which your program consumes for storing any temporary variables, or or for storing any temporary data structures, that is actually known as the space complexity. So every time whenever you are solving a particular problem, you must have minimum time and space complexities. Keep this in your mind, okay? And one more thing, like whenever you are being put in an interview, and if you're going to solve a particular problem, first of all you have to solve it in a brute force approach only, okay? You have to go with the brute force approach, you have to solve it, and then you have to optimize your solution. Okay, so it can be said as an intermediate approach, or something which is better than the brute force approach. And at last you will be giving me more optimized solution by using any algorithms. Okay, so in this sheet, actually, if you are taking for example, let me go on with the binary search problems, which has been based on 1D arrays. First, you try to solve this question. Okay, you try to solve the question on your own. First of all, whenever you are solving a particular question, read the question twice and understand the meaning of what you have to do depending on the constraints given. Okay, first understand the question and try solving it on your own. If you're not getting the things, then go out, check out the articles which is present over here. Okay, here it is something like he would have given you the steps of what should be done and what the exactly the problem description is. If you're not getting again, okay, even after seeing the article, you can go to his corresponding YouTube channel and then you can get things clear. One more time, pressing on this point means it is not a promotion or marketing and all. While I was preparing for my interview, it actually helped me a lot. So I'm just sharing it with you people, okay? And like there are certain companies which actually even focuses on the low level design stuffs, which means you're supposed to develop an application, either it can be a web or a console based application you have to develop. They'll be giving you a scenario, and they'll be giving you a particular constraints, the conditions they'll be giving you, and you are supposed to solve all those things. Okay, it is actually called as low level design, okay, or system design as well. So for this you can go and refer the website, refactoring.guru's design patterns. Okay, so here we have three types of design patterns, which is creational, structural, and behavioral. Okay. Yes. So we are having creational, structural, and behavioral. These are the three divisions. And inside the creational itself, we are having many design patterns. You may ask a question: what is the meaning of design patterns and all, right? So, for example, whenever you are trying to solve, whenever you are being given a question and asked to write a console based application or a web based application, you first learn all these design patterns, okay? And you apply this design patterns while building up your application. So while developing your applications according to the conditions, for example, if they are asking you to concentrate more on the login functionality, you have to think which design pattern can be used for that to enhance more security and authentication. Okay, so think something like that. Apply these design patterns, and when you're explaining your project, when you're explaining your things, stuff which you have developed, include the name of the design patterns which you have used as well, so that it makes you to stand out of the crowd. Okay, because interview is such a place where you have to prove yourself, right? So you can make use of all these design patterns. Okay, so this is actually a very good website for you to practice. Okay, and next thing is yes, so this is all about this which I want to share. Now we'll proceed with the control structures. Okay, next is the looping statements. Control structures, looping statements, everything belongs to the same category only. Looping statements are nothing but, for example, if a process is carried out in a loop, or else if you want to perform an operation or something in an iterative manner or in a repetitive manner, then instead of writing it manually, you can do something, right? So for this only we'll be going on with the looping statements. For example, if I want to print hello world for one time, I can easily give it as system.out.println hello world. If it is 10 times, fine, I'll be able to give. If it's 20 times, fine. If it is 50 times, fine, maybe. But what if I want to print hello world for 1,000 times? I cannot sit and manually write system.out.println hello world. System.out, I mean, until 1,000 times I cannot write, right? Because it's going to be a repetitive process, so that I can, with the help of this looping statements, I can construct a loop which has a start and an end position, and it carries out that particular operation in a repetitive manner. Okay, so first we have the for loop. Okay, it is used to iterate a part of the program several times. Okay, I mean, this is actually the general syntax of a for loop. So first it has three parts, which is initialization, test condition, updation. Okay, please keep this in your mind whenever you're dealing with the looping statements. Until your condition is true only, your loop will be getting worked, your loop will be active. Once when your condition fails, your loop terminates. Okay, so here I'm actually, so here I I is, it's not called as a variable over here. Okay, of course the values will be getting changed according to the conditions applied to the for loop, but here it is termed as iterator. Okay, I is called as the iterator. Okay, so initially I'm going to give the value for my iterator. I have given I as 5. Okay, and also I have given my test condition. I'm going to check, have a check on this, like each time, whether my I value is less than or equal to 10. Okay, only when this condition is true, like this statements which is present inside my for loop will be getting executed. Okay, until this condition is true, my for block will be active and it will be getting executed. Here updation, I can either increment or I can either decrement. Okay, and it is not only that, here I plus plus means it is equal to I is equal to I plus 1, right? It is not something like I'll be able to update, I'll not be able to update it twice and all. Like, instead of giving I plus plus, I can also give as I is equal to I plus 2. It's very flexible, I'm telling. I can give I is equal to I plus 2, or I is equal to I minus 2, or I is equal to I star 2. Anything I can give. Okay. What I'm telling is, it is not something like I can only give I plus plus or I minus minus. No. I can give I is equal to I plus 3, I is equal to I star 3, I by 3, anything. Okay. So the best way when to use for loop is that if you know how many iterations your program wants to carry on, if the number of iteration is fixed, it is recommended to you go with the for loop. Okay. So the two members, I mean, guys present in the live, like, are you getting the point to whatever I'm trying to convey, or do people have any doubts? Because very silent, like, okay, yes. So whenever your iteration number of times, how many times your loop is going to run is already predetermined or fixed, then you can go with for loop. Okay. So I'll be giving you a simple example for loop. Okay, where I'm taking an input from the user. Okay, and I want to print from 1 to that number. I mean, if the user is giving 10, I want to print from 1 to 10. I'll be giving for int I is equal to 1, I is less than input. Okay, let my input be int x, I mean inclusive, I plus plus, system dot out dot println I. Oh, here it's a semicolon. Okay. If I'm giving 5, then from 1 to 5 I want to print. Okay, so here, if I mean, I don't know, like people who know, is that if I'm giving 1, I mean, like I is equal to 1, right? So it starts from 1. But if I'm not giving it, I is equal to I is less than or equal to input, if I'm not like including this equal to, then my I stops at 4 itself. Okay, which means what I'm trying to tell is, if I'm giving something like this, I is equal to 1, I is less than n, some number n which the user inputs, I plus plus. If I'm giving something like this, means this I is not inclusive. I mean, this n is not inclusive. This n is not inclusive. For example, if my n is 5, then my loop runs only from 1 to 4. If I'm printing I means, okay, because n is not inclusive, it's exclusive. If I want to include this n as well, I want to specify less than or equal to n. Okay, so this is all about the for loop. Next, whenever we are going with while loop, this is the flow chart, which is quite similar to for loop. Okay, see, the basic purpose of loopings is same for everything. The syntax differs, and the scenarios where you are going with the for loop and while loop, it differs. So while loop here, right? So it is the algorithm is started, and it will be having a condition over here. If that condition is true, then a set of statements will be executed. If it's, I mean, until the condition is true, the statements will be getting executed. Once the condition fails, it comes to the end block. Okay, okay, so it is also used to iterate a part of the program until the condition is true. Okay, so if the number of iterations is unknown, if you don't know, if the number of iteration is not predefined, or if it's not known for you, if it's not fixed, if it's quite very flexible, then you can go with using while loop. Okay, but generally, like choosing between for loop and while loop, it purely depends on like your comfortableness. If you're comfortable with for loop, you can go with that, or if you're more comfortable with the while, you can go with while as well. Okay, so the same thing, I'll do it with while loop. Something like while my input is, sorry, or let me have a variable iterator int I is equal to 1. Okay, until my I is less than or equal to n, because I mean input, less than or equal to input, because my input is inclusive, right? I want to print my I value, I plus plus. Okay, so first, here I'm going to carry out with the initialization process. Okay, then here I'm going to have a condition check. I'm going to check if my I is less than or equal to the input. Until this condition is true, this statement will be getting executed. Okay, when it fails, when it fails, the while block will be terminated, while loop. Okay, so here it is updation, increment or decrement. Okay, so when I try to run this code, if I'm giving 5, I'm getting the same output, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is how a while loop works. Next is the do while. Okay, there is a slight difference between while and do while. Let's see how the while and do while differs. Okay, guys, are you people there in the meeting? Because if you're having any doubts, you can let me know in the chat. You people are very, very silent. Or wait, I'll check how many people are there in the live right now. Okay. So next thing for do while, okay, the syntax is like this. So do, you'll be giving the statements which must be executed, okay, which must be executed, you'll be giving here while the condition. Okay. So until like this condition holds true, until this condition is true, your do while block will be getting executed. Okay. So this is also like it is same of how a loop works. If the number of iteration is not fixed and if at least once the loop must be executed, you can go with do while. Okay. So it is something like do while is also similar to other looping statements over there. Okay. Either in order to run your program until a condition is true, okay, you can go with do while. Okay, but if your number of iteration is flexible, if it's not fixed, and at least once, even if your condition is true or even if your condition is false also, at least for minimum at least once, if you want your loop to be executed, then you can go with do while. Okay, for example here, like let me give the same example. Do system dot out dot println I I plus plus. Okay, while my I is less than or equal to input. Okay, so what I'm giving inside my do, so here I want to like execute the statements, okay, in the do block while until my this condition is true. One second. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give an input. So when I'm trying to give the input 5, I'm getting numbers from 1 to 5. Okay, so in this example you will not be able to note the difference between the while and the do while block. Okay, but see what happens now over here. Here let's see, I'm giving a condition. Okay, int I is equal to 1. I'm telling my system to print I until my condition I is less than 0. Okay, so until this condition is true, I want my block to be getting executed, right? That is how a loop works. But here in this condition, see what happens. Okay, my I value is 1. Okay, but my condition is my I value must be less than 0. Already the condition fails because 1 is not less than 0, right? So if I'm using normal loop like for loop or while loop, I'll not be getting any output. But see what happens when I'm going with the do while loop. Okay, if here for this input is not required. One second. Yes, input is not required for this. Okay, I'm getting 1 as my output. But if I'm going with while block means while loop means I'll not be getting any output, because what happens while the condition, that condition is I is less than 0, I is not less than 0, 1 is not less than 0, so my condition fails in an initial stage itself. So my control comes out of my while block. But what happens over here in my do while, I mean at least once, so for the very first time the initialization is being carried out. Okay, and in the do block I'm giving the condition to print the nest, I mean I'm giving the condition to print my I value. Okay, so without even checking the condition for the very first time, the statements whichever you're enclosing it in the do block will be getting executed, and that's why we are getting it is being printing the I value. Okay, so 1 is being printed and I is incremented and it comes and it checks with the condition, it fails. So the controller comes out of the while block. Okay, so this is the key difference between while and do while. Even if your condition fails for the initial time, if you're going with the do while block, it actually executes at least once, even if your condition fails initially. Okay. So next thing is, I hope, okay, this is the key difference over here. And next thing is the jump statements which we have in Java. Okay. Next thing is the jump statements which we have in Java. Jump statements is nothing but like based on the requirement, based on the condition. Like if you want to come out of a particular loop or come out of a particular block, or if you want to like jump to the next statement, skip any statement and all, we used to call it as jump statements. Okay. And in Java we used to have three jump statements. One is break, continue, and return. So the return keyword is actually used in methods whenever we are dealing with methods. Okay. So break. Let me give you a very like real time example of where to use break statement. Okay. For example, in an examination, you are being like invigilated, and you are sitting in an examination. For example, you haven't learned any concept, and if you are taking any bits with you, or if you're writing the answers like anywhere in your hands or somewhere, and if you are getting caught by the invigilator, automatically without any answers from your side, they'll just kick you out of the exam hall, and you're not allowed to write the exams, right? So break is something like that. Once your control encounters the break keyword, your control comes out of the entire block. Okay, or wherever. We have already seen the example of using break inside the switch case. So when the break is encountered, your control comes of the switch case. Even if you're going to use it inside a loop, if you're giving break, then automatically it comes outside. So here it checks. So condition, okay, within the loop it checks if it's true or not. Okay. And when it encounters break, it comes out of the loop. Okay. I'll be giving you an example for that as well. So yes, I'll be going with for loop because I'm very comfortable with for loop. And I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to input I plus plus. So I'm having a condition. If my I is equal to 4, okay, or let's not, like take input from the user and all. I'll be giving static input. Okay, so I'm going to run a loop from I 1 to 10. Okay, here I is my iterator. Okay, because that is going to traverse these entire elements. Okay, so I'm going to run from 1 to 10, and if I encounter I is equal to 4, if my I matches with 4, then I'll break. Okay, otherwise I'm going to give system.out.println I. Okay, so when I try to run this, yes. So when my I is 1, it checks whether 1 is equal to 4. No. So here it prints I value, then it checks with 2 and 3 respectively. So my I mean 2 is not equal to 4, as well as 3 is not equal to 4. So obviously my control will not get into this if block. Okay, so my system.out.println statement will be executed, and 1 2 3 is printed. When my I becomes 4, here 4 is equal to 4 is true, right? So my control comes inside my if block, and break statement is encountered. So what happens? My control comes entirely out of my for loop, and my program gets terminated. So this is the usage of break statement according to the requirements, according to your problem. So wherever you want to make use of this break keyword, you can go with it. Okay, so this is actually a jump statement because see, when it is encountering according to a condition, whenever it's encountering the break statement, it completely comes out of the loop, right? So it is a jump statement. Next thing is the continue keyword. Okay, so a continue keyword, it is actually used to skip some part of the code. For example, this is how the flowchart of condition works. So if you're encountering a condition inside the loop, if it is true, if you're encountering a condition keyword, then remaining part of the block will not be getting executed, and then it will be continuing. Okay, for example, it is something like, I hope you people have went to the airports and you have, like, get, the luggages. You will be getting the luggages in this, I mean, pulley system, right? So if, like, a passenger is not, like, is not taking out his luggage from this system, it goes, like, again and again, it comes again and again, right? So it is not something like, for the first time if I miss it out, then I'll not be able to access it and all. So in an, like, iterative fashion it comes, and if that person is not taking the luggage, means it skips and again it comes, right? So it is something like that. For example, here in my code, instead of giving break, if I'm giving continue, means, let's see what happens. See what happens. So 1 2 3 is getting printed. Okay, when I becomes 4, it is I is equal to 4 is true, right? So it comes, the control comes inside my if block, and it encounters my continue keyword. Continue, once it encounters my continue keyword, okay, my all, like, remaining part of the code, remaining part of, like, the for loop will be skipped. So that's why the system dot out or println statement is not executed. It is skipped entirely. It is skipped, and again it goes to my for loop control, and then from 5 it gets starts, because I is being incremented, so it's printing 5 to 10. Okay, so continue will help you to skip the remaining part of the code, and break will help you to terminate your entire code, whichever you are working. So, and there is also one more jump statement in Java, which is the return statement. It is actually used, whenever you are using the methods. Okay, and next thing is, yes. So before going to the methods concept, let's take a small break. Let's take a, like, a 5 to 8 minutes break. So where you can go and you can, like, learn all these I mean, like, you can go through all these concepts, and if you have any doubts you can let me know in the chat. Okay, so yes, so let's have a small break. Okay. Okay, so I hope you people have no doubts until the concepts which you have seen until now. So next thing is we'll be seeing with methods, because on the very first day, like we worked on like I gave you example for the methods as well, right? Whenever we was discussing about the class and objects concept, I gave you certain examples regarding the methods, right? So we'll see that as well. And methods are quite very easy. So for people who know the Python programming language and all, whatever you used to call there as functions is called here as methods. Okay. So if you want to do a particular task instead of like writing the logic again and again, you'll be enclosing it inside a method where you can directly call the function. Directly you can do a method call for the corresponding method which you are going to write. Okay, and you can proceed further. This is actually the general way of declaring a method. Okay, so first you have to provide the access specifier of your method. So like you want to use the access specifier, like we do have four types of access modifiers in Java, right? So yesterday, that day itself, I gave you an overview of like I showed you a table, right, where you'll be able to make use of the methods and the variables whichever you are declaring, right? So we are having four different types of access modifiers, which is public, protected, default, and the private. Okay, so then you have to specify the return type of your method. For example, if you're going to like, one second. Yes, if you are going to return an integer data type. If your method is going to return an integer, then you have to give int over here. If it's not going to return anything, you'll be just specifying void, because void means nothing. And here you are required to give your method name. Here the method name is sum, and the parameters, like you can also pass in the parameters, and you can also give some computations. Okay, so that day I gave you an example for a void method. Now I'll give you a method where it returns an integer and all. Okay, so yes, after declaring, in order to, okay, this is the first statement. This is known as the method header. And after this, inside the method block, you are like supposed to write the actual logic which your method must carry out. Okay, so these are the different things. Okay, and here in the method we'll also be making use of the return statement. Return means once your control encounters the return statement, it like it also, like if you are encountering a written statement, the statements which is present after the written statement will not be getting executed. That's why I said you that a written statement is also a kind of jump statement in Java. Okay, so if you are using a return statement means, usually return statements are actually used at the end of the method only. But even if you're using return statement inside your method, anywhere inside your method, once it encounters the return statement, return block, it the control comes out of the particular method. Okay, so let me give you an example. Yes. Yep. So I'm going to write a method public static int square. Okay, where I'm going to pass a number int num, and I'm going to just return the square of a number. Okay, so int result is equal to num star num, and I'm going to return it, because here I'm going to return an integer value. That's why I have given int over here. Okay, so here let me give int num is equal to or n is equal to 10. I'll do a method call. I'll just give int output is equal to square of n, system dot out dot println the squared value is output. Okay, so I'm writing a method over here which is used to compute the square of a particular number. Okay, so public static int square. Okay, and I am computing the square and I'm assigning it to my result variable. I'm returning the result over here. Okay, and in my main method, I'm giving n is equal to 10 and I'm going to do a method call output is equal to square of n. Here I'm going to call my square method and I'm going to print it. So when I try to run this, I'll be getting the squared values 100. Okay, so this n is this 10 is passed into my function. So this corresponding num it takes the value of my n. So 10 is passed into this function. In my result, 10 into 10 will be getting calculated, computed, and this result is returned over here. Okay, and this returned value is stored in the output variable. And when I try to print the output, I'm getting the correct value. Okay, so this is all about the methods. And here I hope so, I don't know like whether people are available in the live or not. What is the correct way to call a method named print message? So like in order to call a method, so I think this is a void method, so B is my correct answer. Okay, and yeah, here we are at the end of this slide. Next, it's arrays. Okay, so before getting into arrays, let me discuss you with something which is nothing but the nested loops. Already I have introduced the concept of nested if, right? Nested if means if inside if. Similarly, we are having concept like nested loops means loop inside loop. Okay, you can have a for loop inside a for loop, a while loop inside a while loop, anything. Okay, so whenever you guys are preparing for interview, okay, the pattern based questions are being asked in some companies. For example, they'll be giving you a pattern. Let's suppose take a star pattern, something like this. Okay, or a pattern which is something like this. There are many type of patterns which is available. Okay, so sometimes the star patterns or number patterns or alphabet patterns, any kind of patterns they'll be giving you and they'll be asking you to print it. They'll be asking you to write a logic to print this particular pattern and all. Okay, so usually Zoho will be asking those type of questions. So like in this cases you will be making use of nested loops. Nested loops means loop inside loops. Okay, so whenever you're going with nested loops, okay, you'll be writing two for loop. Inside this you'll be writing another for loop. Okay, so one thing which I want to clarify you people, or you can also keep it as hint. Okay, so like there be like certain patterns, and from that only they'll be asking question. But if you want to like solve any patterns, okay, you just want to like know how actually loop works, how nested loop works. Okay, and how to frame the logics and all. Okay, so every time whenever you're writing nested loops for solving any like these kind of patterns, your outer for loop it corresponds to the number of rows. Every time whenever you're writing logics for pattern printing, your outer for loop it corresponds to the number of rows, and your inner for loop it corresponds to the number of columns. Okay, so here in this case, number of rows is 3, right? And number of columns is also 3, right? Yes. So I'll try to print this pattern. Okay. For int I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 3, because number of rows is 3, right? So my I, if I'm giving I is less than 3, means I will be only having my value 1 and 2. I want 3 values, so then only my n is equal to 3 will be getting satisfied. So I want my I to carry out the values 1, 2 and 3. So I is less than or equal to 3, I plus plus. So next I am having a nested for loop int I, j is equal to 1, j is less than or equal to 3, j plus plus. So until this both condition holds true, I want to print star. So let me give a normal print statement here, and once one iteration is getting completed, I'll be printing a println statement. Okay, so when I try to run this, I'm getting the star pattern. So here I have given the star pattern for 3 cross 3 matrix. So if I want to make it as a more dynamic one or a more flexible one, let me, take the input from the user. Enter the number n for printing n cross n pattern, star pattern. Okay. Yes. So, okay. In n is equal to sc dot next int. Okay, so I is equal to 1 to n, j is equal to 1 to n. Okay, I'm trying to print. So if I'm giving, for example, if I'm giving 4 means 4 cross 4 star pattern is printed. So if I'm giving 5 or 6, okay, 6 cross 6 pattern is printed. So every time, please do remember that, like in order to get the complete flow, like take a pattern. First of all, analyze the number of rows which the pattern deals with, number of columns, and the spaces, the gaps, where and all you have to have space if it's any, or where and all you have to have number or stars or anything, the alphabets, and then frame out the logic. But keep this in your mind always: the outer for loop, it corresponds to the number of rows, and your inner for loop, it always corresponds to number of columns. So according to the number of rows and columns required to solve that particular pattern, you have to frame the iterator in such a way. Okay. And one more thing, like whenever you people are applying for Zoho, they'll be asking pattern based questions. And if you want to have if you want to have a broader sense of solving patterns and all, we are having strivers ESA sheet patterns. Yes, so here we have 22 patterns, different variations will be given. It's fine if you're practicing these 22 patterns. Hmm. One second. Yes. So here you will be having 22 patterns, 22 variations you'll be having. Okay. So if you want link to this particular practice problem, you can go over here and you can start solving. So this is the problem which I've solved now. So like this, we are having triangle patterns, different variations. You also have a diamond pattern. Okay, and there are different things which is given over here, something like this. And like this is spiral pattern. Like also people will question you on spiral patterns and all. Okay, so when I attended my Zoho interview, like that was a question which was asked to me. Spiral pattern, spiral matrix, we have question at lead code itself. We have spiral matrix 1 2 3 4 we have. So start solving the problems at lead core. So you'll be having, like a wider knowledge on these stuffs. Okay. So this is what I wanted to introduce to you guys of the spiral matrix and the concept of nested loops, which is actually used to solve the pattern problems. Okay. So next thing is the arrays. Okay. So guys, if you're having any doubts until this, you can let me know in the chat. Okay. So next, let's see what is meant by arrays. Okay, arrays means like now only we are entering into the data structures concept. Okay, means array is actually a linear data structure where you'll be able to store the elements in a sequential manner or in a contiguous manner. Because see, this is how an array is being stored. Okay, means array is stored in a contiguous memory locations. For example, it means array is a collection of data elements of similar data type. So if you want to store a collection of integer elements, okay, you can give int array. You can create an integer array where it is only allowed to store the integer values in an array. Okay, and whenever you want to retrieve an element, whenever you want to access the elements, or whenever you want to modify the elements in an array, whatever CRUD operations you want to perform, okay, I mean, in arrays you'll be making use of something called as indexing. Okay, so based on the indexing only, you'll be able to traverse or manipulate the elements which is present in an array. Okay, so here this is the indexing how it will be. So the first element, it will be having the index 0, next element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here the size of the array is 6, which means you'll be able to store 6 elements, but the index, it will be from 0 to len of array minus 1. Okay, which is from 0 to len of array 6 minus 1, it is 5, right? So we are having elements which is indexed from 0 to 5. Okay, and we have also said like it stores the elements of same data type. So for people who know Python, like like arrays and lists are quite similar, but the thing over here is in list we can have collection of multiple I mean, the collection of elements of multiple data types, whereas in arrays we will be having collection of elements only of same data type. Okay, so that is the key difference between array and list. Okay, and this is actually a 1D array, which is one dimensional array. We also have 2D arrays in Java. Yes, 2D arrays in Java where like if you are having array, if you want to declare 2D arrays means you will be having two square brackets. Okay, where here also the first square bracket is, it corresponds to the number of rows, and your second square bracket, it corresponds to the number of columns. Okay, and like whenever you are working with the 2D arrays and all, there are questions like number of islands questions and all. We used to have number of islands question, or any question that is related to a 2D arrays concept, like But initially, when you want to have more clarity on the 2D arrays, you have to work on the matrix multiplication, addition, and all those things and all. Okay, but in competitive programming, where and all we are having number of islands question and something like that and all, we'll be making use of the 2D arrays. Okay, and even in spiral matrix, we'll be making use of 2D arrays only. And one second. Okay, so next, I'll give you examples for declaring, traversing, and accessing the elements, like in an array. Okay, and then if time permits, then we'll be seeing a DSC algorithm, or else what I'll do is, I know that not many of them are present over here, so tomorrow we'll see the coding challenge and all. But I'll be giving an introduction to strings. Okay, is I'll be giving an introduction to strings, and also I'll be giving an introduction to hoops, and then I'll wind up the session today. Okay, so yep, first thing is, like, if you want to, so as first I'll be telling you the example for an 1D array. So let me create an integer array. Okay, where my array name is ARR, and if I want to create my array with size 6. Okay, let me take this example itself, and I'll go with this, and even my elements will be this. Okay, so here my length of the array is 6. So whenever I want to, declare the array, here I have declared that ARR is going to be a 1D array of int data type, means where it is going to store only the integer elements, and the length of my array is going to be 6. Okay, and I'll be just, I'll be assigning the values to the array which is present over here. So I'll be giving ARR of 0 is equal to 6. Okay, and then I'll be giving ARR of 1 is equal to 4. ARR of 2 is equal to 3. ARR of 3 is equal to 5. ARR of 4 is equal to 2, and ARR of 5 is equal to 1. So I have declared an array of of length 6, and I have also assigned the elements to it with the help of the indexes which is present over there. Now I want to, traverse the elements which is present in my array, and I want to print it. In order for traversing, we have already seen there is a concept called loops. So with the help of for loops, I'm going to, retrieve the elements which is present in an array by traversing over it. So I'll be giving for I is equal to 0 to I is less than ARR dot length I plus plus system dot out dot println element at index I is ARR of I. Okay, so when I try to run this code, I'll be able to retrieve the elements which is present at these indexes. Okay, so when I'm giving, in the for loop, it goes over here. So when my iterator is 0, so it comes and retrieves ARR of 0. It fetches me the element which is present at the 0th index. It is 6. Okay, so similarly it runs. And here this ARR dot length, it is a predefined function. Like, we will be having many predefined functions in Java where already, certain methods are being returned for computing, things. So here arr dot length, it gives me the length of my entire array. So here it is 6. Okay, so either I can do like this, I can declare an array, and then I can, declare the size of the array, and then I can initialize the elements. Either I can do with this, or I can also do something like this, int arr, and directly I can specify the elements in a curly braces. Like I can give 6, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, the elements which we had earlier also. So what I'll be doing is, here I'm not even giving the size of the array. So directly I'm giving the elements and I'm assigning it to my arr array, where my array is going to be it is going to store the elements of integer data types, and these are all are going to be the elements of my array. So when I try to run this code, it works fine as well. Okay, so yes, so either I can create an array, I can manipulate it, traverse it in that way, or else I can also do it in this way. Okay, and next thing, we are also having a concept called for each loop. Okay, for each loop is nothing but, instead of this loop, I can simply give for int element in arr system dot out dot println element. So I'll be able to retrieve the elements which is present in my array. Okay, so this is actually known as for each loop. For each loop, in the sense, this is my iterator. The element variable will behave as an iterator, but it will not point out to the indexes. Directly it will point to my element. So here, for the very first time, this element will be pointing out to my element 6. Okay, number 6. So then when I try to print, the element 6 is printed. Now next iteration, now my element will point out to the number 4 over here. Okay, and then it will be printed. Next, my element will be pointing out to 5, then it will be printed. Next, it will point out to 3, it will print. Next, it will point out to 2, it will be getting printed. Next, it will be pointing out to 1, it will be getting printed. Okay, so this is the actual meaning of for each loop. Here in this case, I is my iterator, but it will point out to my indexes of my array. But here element is also an iterator. Okay, but this points out to the directly, it is pointing out to the element itself. And here I have specified the array to which the element must be pointed out to access that particular element. Okay, and one more thing, if you want to make use of the indexes in your particular logic in your for loop, going on with this step is actually good. If you're only going to deal with the elements which is present in your array, if you're not going to do anything with the index, if you don't want index of any element or all those things, you can go with for each loop also, as it's very simple to use. Okay, and this is all about arrays. And yes, coding challenges and all, we'll be seeing it tomorrow. And next thing is strings. So already, while telling the different data types itself, I have given you an overview of what is string. Okay, in Java, string is actually an object. Okay, string is actually treated as an object, and it is an object. It represents a sequence of characters, and we know it is enclosed in double quotes. It can be a collection of numbers, alphabets, special symbols, whatever. Okay, but it is actually treated as an object in Java, and it is a collection of characters. Okay, and it is stored in a special memory which is called as string constant pool. Okay, so this is the string constant pool which is present over here. And one more thing, yes. So what happens is, for example, first time, so whenever I want to create a string variable, I'll be telling string is my keyword. So s1 is my string name variable, and here I'm giving apple. Okay, so what happens is, in the string constant pool, okay, apple is created and my object s1 is pointed towards it. Okay, and then I'm going to create another string is2 called as mango. And what happens, so it checks in it checks in my string constant pool whether I have already mango word or not. No, I don't have any mango word, right? Because when the apple is being defined in my earlier step, so here mango is a new word for me. So I'm going to store the word mango, and I'm going to point my s2 object to this particular mango. Okay, next thing, Again, I'm declaring s3 as apple. So apple, I already have it in my string constant pool. So instead of creating again apple, what I'm doing is, it is internally, it is not going to create an apple again. It is actually, because apple is already present in my string constant pool, right? So it is actually going to map it with like the apple which I have declared already. So s3 is also going to point over here. Okay. And next thing, I'm like accessing, whether I'm checking, I'm asking my program to give me whether s1 is equal to s2. No, it is not equal, because apple is not equal to mango, right? But now I'm giving it, asking whether my s1 is equal to s3 or not. S1 is also apple and S3 is also apple, so it gives me true as the output. And one more thing, okay, strings are actually immutable, meaning you cannot you cannot change the content which is present in a string. Strings are immutable. You cannot modify or change the already characters the which is present in a string. Okay, if you want to manipulate the string elements, if you want to like change the elements, change the characters which is present in a string, if you want to alter it according to your own requirements and needs, you are supposed to go with either string builder or string buffer class. Okay. And in this, you have to convert a normal string into a string builder object, and then you have to work on if you want to manipulate anything. Okay. And string builder, we do have many predefined methods in string builder. Okay, so let me show you a demo of that. So yes, so first of all, I'll create a string s1 is equal to like java programming. Okay, so whenever I try to print system.out.println s1, okay, I'll try to print. Okay, yes, I'm getting the entire thing. Okay, so if I want to see what happens if I'm telling s1, okay, I'll not be able to manipulate anything. Because this string is immutable. So what I want to do is, I want to either go with string builder or string buffer classes. Which one is comfortable to you, you can go with it. But right now I'll create a string builder object where I'll be passing this s1 inside this. So string builder sb1 is equal to new string builder of s1. Okay, so I'm converting the string to a string builder object. I'm converting the string object s1 to string builder object sb1, so that I'll be able to manipulate the things which is present over here. Okay, so let me give sb1 dot reverse. Okay, I'm going to reverse the entire elements which is present in my string. So I'm giving s1b, I mean sb1 dot reverse of okay, so now when I try to print my sb1, I'll not be getting any value, because that is a string builder object, right? So I'll not be getting any value. So in order to print the correct output, again I want to convert the string builder object to string object, for which I'm having a function called toString. Okay, so when I try to print it, I'll be getting the reversed answer. Okay, now let's see what happens if I'm not using this toString. Okay, if I'm not using toString also, I'm retrieving the answer. But there could be, there are some cases like in late code and all, they'll be giving you snippets. Okay, and in the snippets, if they're asking you to return only string value, already we know, right? In lead code and all, we are not supposed to write the entire code and logic and all. They'll be giving a method, and for that method we are just supposed to write the logic and the method description over there. So if your method is supposed to return string, that time you cannot return a string builder object. So that time you can actually you make use of this toString method to convert your string builder object into a string object, so that it works fine. Okay, so here now I have used reverse. there are many predefined functions which is available, like insert, replace, substring and all. Okay, string builder in Java. You see, you're having different methods. You're having append, insert. These are the syntax and description. Like you can go through this. You can replace, you can delete an element, reverse I have done, capacity, like character at. If you want to retrieve the character at any index means you'll be able to do that. If you want to find length, it is fine, because even in normal string also we'll be able to find the length with the help of the length method. Okay, but if you want to manipulate, if you want to change, replace, insert, delete, you are not allowed to do it with a string object, because string object is generally immutable. Okay, and if you want to retrieve the substring also, it is actually possible. Okay, and yes, these are the different examples. So this is all about the string builder and the strings. Okay, so next this challenge also we have, like, I mean, I'll be telling you the general approach with which we can, do this solve this palindrome program. Okay, so we know, like, it is quite simple. I have already done this. Okay, so this is palindrome. In the sense, palindrome is nothing but if I want to, like, check if a string is palindrome or not, what I have to do is, for example, I'm giving, yes, so I'm having an input RACAR. Okay, let it be my input. So when I try to reverse it, I'll be getting the same thing, right? RACAR. So if my input string is equal to the reversed string, then I want to, like, retrieve, I want to tell it as palindrome. So palindrome is something like that. Okay. So if you want to check whether a string is palindrome or not, what you have to do is you have to get the input string from the user and you want to reverse it out. Okay, I mean, either you can reverse it out or you can go and check for any other methods in order to solve this particular problem. So generally, what is a palindrome? In the sense, the input string must be equal to the reverse string. So if it is the case, then you will be returning that the string is a palindrome. If not, if your input string is not equal to the reverse string, then you will be returning it as a not a palindrome. Okay, so yes, so here the constraint which I have given here is, try to solve this problem is in O of n time complexity and O of 1 space complexity. So if you want to solve the like, problem in O of 1 space complexity, it actually tells the meaning that you are not supposed to use any data structures for storing your intermediate steps. So if you're not storing anything in your intermediate steps only, you'll be able to solve it in O of n space complexity. Okay, and O of n time complexity ensures that you are supposed to traverse the elements that is present in the string only once. Okay, if all the elements in the string is being traversed and iterated, then it accounts to O of n time complexity. Okay, so this general approaches you can do it with like a very simple technique. Like here, we are having, like, a predefined method in string builder class, right? We are having the reverse method. So what you're supposed to do is, you want to get an input string from the user. Okay, you have to input string only I have said, right? So you have to get the input string from the user, and then you have to convert this string into a string builder object. Okay, after converting it into a string builder object, you have to make use of the reverse method. Okay, to calculate the reverse string, you have to store this reverse string into another string. Okay, and then you have to have a check on it whether the input string is equal to the reverse string or not. So you can enclose it in an if else block. So if that is true, then you have to return it as a palindrome. If not, you have to return it as not a palindrome. Okay, but you can go with it, but there is a very optimized solution for finding out the palindrome. You can go check it out. Okay, because the coding challenges we'll be solving it tomorrow. Okay, and after this, tomorrow I'll start with the oops concept, and tomorrow we'll be completing it as well. So I just want to know, like, we'll wind up this session like, after this, because we have seen a lot many things today. So if you people have any doubts, you can let me know in the chat, or else we can wind up the session. Guys, if you people have any doubts, we can like you can let me know in the chat, or else if you want to provide any feedback also, you can provide me in chat, or else we'll wind up the session right now because I'm having another meeting as well. Okay, so with this, I'm winding up today's session. Okay, so thank you all for your patience. Like, thank you. And if you're having any doubts, you can reach out to me. Thank you, guys.